Every time I cut off one head of the Hydra, 10 more fill its place. So this is Wojak chess. You should subscribe to become a smart Wojak. Joke's on you, internet trolls. I already threw myself as the chat Wojak, and I threw you as the stupid Wojak. I hate this so much. Like, every chess tip explained in just 3 minutes. By the way, every chess tip, there aren't more of them. I mean, how to reassess your chess is like 500 pages long. But this guy is, of course, going to do it in 3 minutes. I seriously wonder, what do people think they're gonna learn from this?
Develop fast.
Ooh.
Develop your pieces as soon as possible. Especially your knight and bishops. Remember, you want to dominate the board, not get dominated by a silly opponent.
I hate the sound effects so much. Like, I'm sorry. Why do you edit it this way?
Control the center. In addition to your minor pieces, push your pawns to occupy and fight for the center. Controlling the center means controlling the game.
Okay, thank you. I have done a lot of talking on this topic. Why do we control the center in chess? So first, about center control. And this is very fundamental. Pieces in the center control more squares than their counterparts. For example, this knight, as you can see, it controls all of these squares. While this knight over here only really controls 2 squares. So the knight in the center here is simply a stronger piece. This is also true if we replace them with queens. This queen has a strong diagonal and sides, which adds up to 27 squares. This queen, however, sees a lot more because it stands on more diagonals. This is true for every piece except for rooks. Rooks control the same amount of square independently where they stand. So let's say we don't control the center at all. We get our knights pushed around, and then here we don't control the center. We just develop our pieces willy-nilly. Who do you think is going to start an attack first? The guy who can bring all his pieces out to comfortable squares? Or the person that honestly come up with a plan? Like, seriously, you can take here, it doesn't really help much. Like, seriously, where do your pieces go? So yeah, the tip is good, but the problem with a lot of this advice, it's so generic, it becomes pointless again. If I just tell a beginner, control the center without providing any form of example, they're not gonna learn anything.
Queen too early. If you develop your queen too early, it can be easily attacked, making you waste lots of moves and giving your opponent development for free.
Okay, but that was a really stupid example of developing your queen, right? Guess in which opening you develop your queen early. Scandinavian. Is it okay? Of course. I mean, yes, white gains a tempo, but from here, it's really not that bad. I've already talked about this in previous videos, so I won't dwell on it too long. But there are a lot of reasons and a lot of openings where one would bring the queen out early, like here. Why is this good? The queen is actually pretty well centralized. It controls a lot of squares. So why does it stand good over here? Well, it can't be kicked because white played c3. It is of course true, you shouldn't bring your queen out for no good reason. There are plenty of scenarios where bringing your queen out early is good. What I see a lot of people actually misdo, a very common opening trap, and this comes out of the 4 Knights Sicilian. This is a very common trap. A lot of beginners here will have such a blind spot for the queen coming out early that they'll think, I can just play pawn e5, attacking the knight. And they lose because the queen can in fact come out early. Oops, that's just a free pawn.
Knights before bishops. Your bishops are way more flexible than your knights. Your knights only have 1, maybe 2 good squares to go to.
I mean, he has a point. He's simplifying a bit to the extent that it becomes pretty dubious advice again. So I always give examples from the Sicilian. This time, I'll give an example from the French. So let's say we play a mainline French. So here we go, knight before bishop. You know, great move. Let's look at the win hour variation. Pawn e5, they go c5, a3, we take. Very common chess position. So let's say they go knight c6. I don't think it's the main line, but it is frequently enough played. Do you know what would be a bad move here? Knight f3. Simply not a good move. But it makes sense because we're developing our minor pieces first and we're doing knights before bishops. So why does it fail? This knight is horribly misplaced here. Why is it horribly misplaced, you might ask? Isn't there only like 2 good squares it can go to? So should we have brought it to e2? No, it stands just as bad there. Why is the knight misplaced on f3? 2 reasons. First of all, the center is decently locked and we have a space advantage on the king side. So that's where we want to play. So for the first reason, knight on f3 prevents us from moving between our f-pawn in the future, which is a move we very well might want to get into. But even more painfully so, knight f3 prevents our queen from coming out early. Hey look, a very common opening where we don't follow both of these principles. Queen g4 is an excellent move because frankly, this is a huge weakness and this creates a real big problem from your opponent. You can't play moves like g6 here because this is way too weakening, and we can very quickly get a lot of play in over here. So I think the main line is something like king f8, but I could be mistaken. That could also be knight e7, giving the pawn up. This sometimes happens as well. If we look at the knight in isolation, it's obvious that it wants to go to this square at some point where it helps control the center. Your pieces don't operate in isolation. What I see a lot of people mistake in the opening is that they follow these principles blindly. The placing of your pieces should come from strategic considerations, not from some weird dogmatisms. And you might think I'm being pedantic there, and you probably have a good point. But to be honest, once people reach the rating of like 1200 online, they know that they should control the center. So just telling them, control the center, put out your knight isn't helpful. What you need to tell them is you need to tell them the reasons why, and then you need to formulate exceptions to these rules to them. That's how you actually learn in this game.
Pieces win ahead, also called simplification. Reducing the amount of pieces makes your other pieces stronger. Therefore, this makes your endgames way easier.
He's providing very simple examples. Listen, I think it's good to simplify the positions when you're up a massive amount of material. So I watch a lot of Road to 2000 Elo YouTubers, and this guy's named Blunder Ghost. And in one of his games, he reached the following position here. So after long castles, bishop d7, here he's up one pawn. So his mind was like, I should simplify. Here your position is so dominant that it doesn't matter. But this is a really bad instinct. Why is that? Well, first of all, our queen is a wonderful piece, and this bozo of a king is stuck in the center of the board with nothing to do. Why would we trade our queens here? We're only up one pawn. If we simplify the game too much, we might actually lose all of our advantage. Like, I'm just gonna make some complete nonsense moves over here, and we could reach a position like this, right? Complete arbitrary nonsense. We have simplified nearly everything. Where is our advantage? Like, we're up a pawn, and that counts, but this is one struggle still to be had. So simplify when you're ahead, but don't simplify for simplification's sake. When do we trade queens? We trade queens when our king is weaker than our opponents, and it doesn't take a 2500 rated player here to figure out that the opponent has a way weaker position. We also trade pieces when the opponent's piece is more active than our own, but that's a really hard argument to make for the black queen over here. So yes, this move didn't lose the game. Our position is way too good for that, but the intuition to simplify the position is one where I see a lot of people make mistakes, including me. I played a game today against someone in my Discord, and the game, you know what, they messed up a bit in the opening and I got a really good position out of it. But what did I do? I simplified for no reason. This pin isn't going anywhere. Why would I trade? Complete moronic mistakes, and here we traded everything, and you know, they played really well, they were very resourceful, and here, this position is not that clear. I am probably a bit better, but my gosh, is this still a game to play? Well, if you'd given me this position, I would have told you the game would end in 10 moves. There are obvious scenarios where simplifying is good, but it is actually really terrible advice to follow dogmatically. Mostly because it's a lot easier to trade off our more active pieces than it is to trade off our passive ones.
Avoid doubled pawns. Doubled pawns are a big weakness. When doubled, your pawns can't defend each other anymore, making them an easy target.
Bad advice. This is just straight up bad advice. I can guarantee you there is no chess book out there that will tell you that doubled pawns are a weakness in the middle game. There are some endgames where doubled pawns make it so that you can't get a passed pawn, or in certain king and pawn endgames they look a bit weak. So there are of course scenarios, but what is the bigger weakness, as well as in this example, is the fact that they're isolated. Isolated pawns, especially on open files, can be an incredible weakness. But doubled pawns pawns, not as much. I'm working on a video about the London at the moment, especially from the black side. And there's one variation, for example. Let's say they go queen b3. Neither side wants to be the first to take. Why? Because this doubled pawns is a huge structural improvement. We are activating the rook for no reason. And you might think this is a weakness. This pawn is an incredible resource because guess what? We're really supporting c4. So instead, what should black do here? Black should play c4, getting them to take us, doubling our pawns, and we're better. Because these doubled pawns are strong. Let's say white does essentially nothing. b5. Let's say they play a3. b4. Aren't we losing a pawn? No, there's a pin. Doubled pawns necessitate open files. And in this case, we have very good easy play against white. More about this position in an upcoming video on the London. Doubled pawns aren't weak. Doubled pawns create open files. They can sometimes be structural improvement. In certain endgames they're weak, but in others they're quite good.
Avoid pushing pawns in front of your king. Your king's safety is the most important thing. Pushing the pawns in front of your king creates weak squares you don't want.
Also bad advice. There are plenty positions in chess, and I'm gonna name the most obvious example, the king's Indian defense, where you need to get play on the king side. Like strategically speaking, right? In this king's Indian defense opening, black is strategically worse. Mostly because we're giving white all the space. Like, I'm not even kidding. Let's say we actually just do nothing. So we always pick the option, bring pieces over, c5 comes in. We're dead lost. You need to be quick. Here, white has gotten everything. They've gotten their entire queenside play, and we haven't even started our attack yet. Especially in positions where the center gets locked, it is fine to push pawns on in front of your king, because we need to get open files so we can get counterplay. And you see this in a lot of chess positions, frankly.
Avoid isolated pawns. Isolated pawns are pawns which are isolated. They can't be defended by other pawns. Isolated pawns are a weakness to avoid.
Okay, I know I literally just said isolated pawns are weak. I agree with them in principle. But even then, I will just add the side note. They open files. So it's a real 50-50. Let's grab another example. Let's go for the 4 knight Sicilian again. Here there's a line, knight b5. This is very often played, bishop b4. Here there's a lot of variations. Bishop f4 is super tactical and will put the board on fire. There's a very simple line though, pawn a3. Here they can take and they play d5. This is an isolated pawn. Is it weak? Weak. Theoretically, yes. Can we actually exploit it? Well, that is really hard. We're not really controlling the square in front of the isolated pawn, meaning it can be pushed. Also, black is gonna get some counterplay on these two half-open files over here. So I think it would be very weird to just say, oh yeah, black is a weakness, so white's better. But on the other side, I can very easily like grab a position. I don't know. Like I can very easily get a random position where the IQP, yeah, this is a bit weak. Personally, in this position, I quite like the IQP. I think it's a pretty good asset for black.
Centralize pieces in the endgame. Your king is usually in his cozy corner at the beginning of the endgame. Walk him out to support your pieces.
Oh, the video ended. Yeah, I mean, centralized pieces just in general, right? Like, control the center. So why would we keep it to the end game? Yeah, weird video. Like, there's some good advice in here. Review your games, yes. Check your opponent's threats, of course. Control the center, absolutely. But you can't just play chess by simply following a set of rules or a thinking system. Chess is a game where concrete calculation and objective decision making will always beat out a thinking system. Honestly, that prioritizes any arbitrary measure. Whether it's random threats or not bringing the queen out early or whatever. I want to add this bit in the end. Mostly because it's been a bit of a theme that I talk against this dogmatic advice. And I didn't want to make another video where I just shoot it down without replacing it with something else. Because I am in fact very much against the idea that if you follow a rule set or if you just do these 5 tricks that you'll gain Elo really fast. But I get the appeal because to a lot of people this is how they learn at the beginning. They get told by Batman Chess that they should always get their king castled and develop their knights and bishops. That will work for them. But there is a point when you become an intermediate player where these little shorthand rules need to get replaced with actual fundamental understanding. And that's where the difficulty comes in. So how do you actually get there? How do you get to the point that you obtain understanding? Let's say I give this position over here to a beginner. What move are they gonna play? If you have no experience with this, you're not gonna find the correct move. If you've experience with these structures, you'll probably at least consider the move pawn to g4, which in this case isn't just a great move. move. For positional ideas, you will learn this by being exposed to a lot of different structures, to a lot of different lines, to a lot of different games, and slowly you'll expand your repertoire and you notice these small little signals. The center is locked, there's a knight here, and I have space advantages here. So g4 will come up as a candidate move. Or let's say you reach this position. This is another very common idea. I can teach you in probably 1 minute what the Greek gift sacrifice is. Pawn e5, knight goes out, bishop h7, here you win the game. But to be honest, if you're a strong player, this idea needs to pop in your head here. Whether you play e5 or bishop here and then e5. Most strong players will see the ability to put a pawn on e5 and will already be thinking about sacrifice on h7. So while it probably will take me 2 minutes to explain to you what the Greek gift is, it will take you a lot of experience to not only see it coming from a distance, but also under time pressure. So how do you train that? Well, still, you need to solve a lot of positions. You need to have seen the Greek gift and solved it for yourself so often that it becomes second nature to you. And that's how you improve at chess. It is nothing but not hard work, but I promise you it's one of the most intellectually rewarding things you can do. Advice comes cheap, but it's never a substitute for practice. When you're on the road of improvement in chess, never forget to, when you reach one mountain peak, to look at the next. Be proud of how far you've come and always stay hungry for how far you still have to go. It's the only way to improve. It's how it's always been done. I hope you liked this video. YouTube thinks you'll like this one. I think I worked hard on it, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.